What's going on, everybody? It's your boy J Rich back for another episode of Across the Pod with my main man Tom. Tom, we had a very average game week one. There was, of course, a lot of disappointments across all of FPL, depending on who you had in your team. But individually, in the mini league, not so bad for the two of us. And that's why all of our boys better tune in, because we're going to get them sorted for game week two. But how are you doing, my friend? And how was your game week one for FPL?
I'm good. It's nice to be back. It feels, after last season, game week one was pretty tragic, but this season, me and you topping the mini league's quite nice. You beat me by 2 points, and I was robbed of that Tarkowski clean sheet, but otherwise, life's good, and looking forward to game week two.
Yeah, so let's get into our team, because we do have some moves, I think, that could be made, and I think depending on where you're at in your team, if you had an Ollie Watkins, who we had, if you had a Joao Pedro, if you were in on Bruno Fernandes like we are and still are, you may be wondering, should you make a move? Because some of the other players that were performing well around that price range or lower are being bought up and transferred in right now. The Chris Woods, the Semenyos, who I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit. Ekitike scored and got an assist. But we did get Haaland right. That's the one thing we did get right. We said, we're taking Haaland over Salah. Salah got that late goal on Friday, and I was so mad. I wanted that Salah blank so bad. But do you have any thoughts of our team right now before we get into your notes for game week two?
I don't think so. I think our team is set up well. I think everyone else, you kind of picked your team for the long term. You didn't pick it for game week one. So I think unless there's an obvious fire that you need to put out and change it, I think it's better that you just kind of roll with what you decided. You know, you picked these players for game week 2, 3, 4, 5. For us, there's no immediate changes. Obviously, some people didn't perform like Watkins and Rodgers, but they've probably got the best fixture run out of any team. I think Villa and Bournemouth are rated top for the next fixture run. So I think the second, and you got to think Rodgers and Watkins go away to Brentford as well, who did absolutely terribly in game week one. So I think, knowledge is kind of key and information is key. I would just roll the transfer, look going into game week two with 2 free transfers. I think that's kind of what we should do.
Yeah, the way we're set up right now, I think we're more than fine. As you mentioned, we set up for the long haul, and we can get into your notes there because there's some very interesting stuff in there, so I'm excited to get into it, and I can't wait to propose to you a transfer that I'm thinking about for my own team that I think could really, really work.
I'm excited. Yeah, reflecting on this slide, I didn't realize how central I made the left-hand side. Lots of men hugging going on over there, but that's, there's nothing wrong with that. That's quite nice. On the right-hand side, I think the key thing for us to note is Arsenal are projected top goals and top clean sheet percentage. So if you've got Arsenal, you're looking really good this week. I would be tempted to captain Saka if I had him, or Gyökeres. I guess the only thing to say with that is if you look at the Gyökeres graphic there, after Leeds, the next 4 for Arsenal are pretty bad. So you've got Liverpool away, you've got Forest, who have great defence, City at home, Newcastle away. I wouldn't be transferring in Arsenal assets, but if you have them, a great week for this week. And then it's kind of like a story of different pairs, I guess, the photos that I've got. If you think about City, I think Reindeers looked absolutely amazing at 5-5. Haaland as well. We went with Haaland and captained him. With City expecting to score the most goals, I think he's definitely in with captaincy shout this week. Chelsea obviously didn't get off to a great start, but you've got Palmer and Joao Pedro with 2 expected goals. You imagine one or both of them to be involved in those, and Chelsea with a really high clean sheet potential as well. So a lot of people going with Bob Sanchez in goal, and I think that's going to pay dividends. So I think you're kind of looking good on that front. The only other teams which I think worth mentioning is Villa only expects to score 1.65, but given how bad Brentford were, I can see them getting a lot of goals in that game. And I see Konsa getting a red card against Newcastle. A lot of people transferring in Matty Cash. So I think we can kind of talk about some of the key, players to bring in and transfers at different levels. But the final team that I wanted to mention is I had Semenyo in my game week 1 team.
You did?
Him and Evan Nilsson, both 7 mil in probably, other than Villa, got the best fixture run this week at home to Wolves. Looked really, really good again, and unlucky not to get a point against Liverpool. So I think that's kind of the flurry of everything that's in my realm of, what's going to happen in game week 2. Is there any of those fixtures which I haven't mentioned? Obviously you got United away at Fulham. Are you thinking about keeping Bruno? Where's your head at?
So the one question I did want to have for you is, have you seen the rumors about the Arsenal penalty situation? Because that is one potential issue for Saka, especially at 10 mil. Do you think that they're actually going to put Gyökeres on pens? Because there has been that rumor floating around. He's obviously 9.5 mil, Saka's at 10 mil. But at 10 mil right now, I don't think Saka's necessarily a value, but at Leeds, you're not going to get rid of him just yet. And I do want to kind of see that situation play out. Obviously, the schedule is not very good, but I'd still be willing to roll with him a little bit. But do you have any concerns about Gyökeres potentially being on pens and Saka being removed from them?
Yeah, I think I would have said no. I don't understand why they would give pens to Gyökeres, but I think a few articles came out with people close to Arsenal, and they said that internally they've decided Gyökeres will be on penalties. So obviously you can take that with a pinch of salt, but my guess would be Gyökeres is probably going to take the first penalty to get his confidence up. And with Havertz injured, I guess as a Gyökeres owner, if you've got him, it's great news.
Yeah.
And with Havertz injury, he's kind of going to play 90 minutes now, unless they bring on Trossard or Nwaneri or someone to play at striker. So I think this week, if I had Gyökeres and Saka, I would still captain Saka. I think he's way more explosive. Gyökeres didn't look great. And with the chance of penalties as well, I don't think it's an immediate risk for Saka, but going forward, definitely it'd be great if they get a penalty against Leeds so we can kind of put it to bed.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that's just where, if you have Gyökeres, you should be excited because that's only positive news. When you were paying up for him at 9.5 mil, you weren't necessarily expecting him to be on pens, but I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm also very interested in the Palace and Forest fixture. A lot of people had Forest defense, a lot of people have Palace defense, and now they're going to be clashing off against each other.
Yeah.
I feel like most people are begging for a double clean sheet, but we'll see how that game ultimately falls. But outside of that, I wouldn't say I'm overly excited. That the only concern really is Palace, because Eze is going to Arsenal. At least it seems like it. So he's not going to be playing in this fixture. How did they look and how do they operate without him? Because when we talked about it going into game week 1, I was really interested in Sarr. I think he did a great job getting forward and back with some defensive contributions as well. So I'd be maybe a little bit more tempted to have him. But really, that show's going to run through Mateta, so I'm not overly concerned. The question really, Tom, is when are we going to start giving United their respect? Because they had a hell of a game against Arsenal, and I'm very tempted to make a move for Mbeumo very, very soon, because both him and Cunha had multiple scoring opportunities, and while the Fulham fixture I don't love, especially with it being on the road, there's going to be a point where they're going to probably have a 3 or 4 goal game, and everyone's going to be transferring in United assets.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you can definitely start to predict and get ahead of the curve. You don't need to, anyone who watched that game saw that Cunha looked fantastic and Mbeumo looked fantastic. Bruno was deeper and pulling the strings. I think he made 5, the most chances out of anyone in game week 1. So I think if you have Bruno, he's a hold for me. But Mbeumo and Cunha both looked really exciting. I think the second they're not playing Arsenal, and even this week against Fulham away, it's a great opportunity to actually... It would be really interesting if they start with Sesko and they do Cunha and Mbeumo behind, or if they do what they did before and start with Cunha and Mbeumo up top. Because I think it's going to be a 1.6 goals, but I could see them scoring 2, 3, 4 because of how fluid their attack looked. They looked a lot better. So definitely, if you want to get ahead of the curve, and I think Mbeumo is probably the one that you would pick between Mbeumo and Cunha, but both look fantastic.
Yeah, so I did want to bring that one up because that was something I mentioned. But yeah, like Wolves look god awful, so Bournemouth assets seem great right now. And as you mentioned, Brentford is the other one. As much as I want to sell Watkins after that blank, I got to give him one more week to see did I make a mistake. But I understand people if they want to go from a Watkins to a Gyökeres because maybe this week, or if you're on a free hit, like tripling up on your Arsenal, because that seems to be a strategy people are liking a lot as well. But I think we can continue. It's really just the clean sheet side. I don't know if I'm sold on the Burnley clean sheet because we have Estevez, and I want to put him in my team. I want to believe, but where are you at on Burnley this week?
It's actually, well, I've got a slide which is questions for you, and it's it's the same question about Burnley because I'm not too sure whether, and I think a lot of people are thinking the same. It's, they looked awful. They conceded 3, but then again, in 46 games in the Championship last season, they only conceded 16 goals, which is crazy. Yeah. So they had one of the best defense, I think probably the best defense the Championship's ever seen, playing against a Championship side at home in Sunderland. Obviously, Sunderland have made a lot of new signings, but you would expect Burnley to go into that game confident of finishing way above Sunderland last season. First game at home, promoted side. I don't see them conceding more than 1 unless things go drastically wrong. And for me, it's a question of with Dubravka, who I'm probably going to start in goal.
Yep.
Do you double up and go with Esteve as well? Which is just like, or do you just go with Dubravka and hedge your bets and just play someone like Porro or Munoz or whoever else you have in that defensive position?
Yeah, and that's the dilemma right now, right? I have Van de Ven in my team. We have Pedro Porro, but they have City, and the way City looked against Wolves, I'm not really tempted to play either of those guys against City. So I'm probably staring down the barrel of a double Burnley, and that is very scary. But again, against another promoted side, they should feel more than confident who they're playing against, and there's a reason why they have top 4 clean sheet odds this week, and so you probably should roll with it and just run that risk, because how many other weeks are you going to have the opportunity to do that?
Yeah, so Jay Rich, I got a few questions for you. It would be good you can see we've just touched on Burnley there. Which one are you benching out of Esteve and Porro?
I'm going to be benching Porro. I'm not messing around with City right now. I'm already contemplating Haaland as a captain once again. You look at Reinders and how he looked, basically contributing for 3 goals, not just the goal and assist that he got in that game. I'm not that familiar with Burnley's game, but I know that they can defend, and I hope they can do so this week.
Because I guess the thing that people are saying is Porro has a much higher ceiling, and with Frank against tougher opposition like PSG, played 5 at the back. Porro got an assist against PSG, taking the set pieces, playing 5 at the back. Yeah. So he's basically going to operate as a right wing with Kudus. Is there not a higher ceiling for Porro, or do you just think actually you should look at the models and just be like, fuck it? You expect Esteve to keep a clean sheet. Are you just overthinking it by going Porro against City?
I think it depends on where you're at to start, right? If you were coming in on 30, 40 points, you kind of want that upside, then maybe you would take a Porro. But if you're even average, right around 55, 56, 57, and you maybe had a couple stinkers in a Watkins and a João Pedro, I don't think you need to go crazy and overthink this one. Yes, the ceiling probably still aligns with Porro, but do we really expect them to keep a clean sheet, which is really where the true ceiling lies?
Yeah.
And I'm just not willing to make that bet. I'm just not.
Yeah, exactly. Porro did get a 14-pointer against City last season with a 4-0 win, but that was City of last season, and City looks so much better this week that I don't want to bet against them. So I'll probably go Esteve as well. The next one is captaincy this week. Now,
Ooh.
I think so. This is a little bit difficult if you're a non-Haaland owner. I think there's 2 kind of questions. If you own Haaland, are you going to captain him? I probably will. And then outside of Haaland, where would you be placing the captain's armband? Because, and I've included Watkins there for one reason, and in the last 7 games against Brentford, he scored 6 and assisted 1. So he looks fantastic, and especially considering how bad Brentford are now, I've included him. You've got Saka at home to Leeds. Salah always scores against Newcastle. Palmer obviously didn't look great in the first week, but West Ham away, who also looked drenched, conceded 3 to Sunderland. Where would you place that captain's armband?
Yeah, it's tough because I feel like so many people are still just in the it has to be Salah mindset, right? Like most teams have Haaland or Salah, and I think if you have one of those players, you're probably going to give them the armband. But at the same time, Tom, I'm just looking at Saka, and I've been looking at Saka since before game week 1, and this is the perfect fixture for him. It's the perfect one to say, if you don't have Haaland, or even if you do have Salah, the upside still lies with Saka. And while there's the reports about the pens, and I understand all that, he's still a very prolific player. They should score a ton of goals, hopefully get some open play goals this week. That would be great. But I just don't trust Palmer enough. I just don't trust this team. And this has always been, I guess, my bearish case for Chelsea. Is as good as it looked in preseason, as good as they looked in the Club World Cup, they looked unstoppable. How do you come out that flat in the first game week against a, again, solid opponent, but nothing crazy overall? They just got beat by a team that has more cohesion and is a better team. Chelsea's still coming together. They're going to be fine, but it just is a lot for me to ask Palmer to be my captain when there's just so many other great options on the board. He would probably be 5th on my list as far as I'm concerned right now, but I would probably be leaning Saka, potentially even over Salah, and I don't mind going after Watkins because I think that Watkins will have a good performance. Brentford looked so bad. I mean, how many years we can talk about Chris Wood and how he's a fine striker, but he's nothing to write home about, and I think Ollie Watkins can deliver against Brentford.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're right in that, a lot of people are scared about going captains. Last year was probably the first year where if you didn't go go with Salah, you got really punished. Whereas in previous years, it's a real good opportunity to get up the ranks early. If Salah, he almost blanked in game week 1, and probably like 80% of owners have captained him, or like of FPL fully. Everyone on Twitter and engaged managers, all the pros are going with Salah, captained him, almost blanked. Going up to Newcastle, where it's going to be a hostile atmosphere, it's a difficult, it's a very difficult fixture for Liverpool. So, and one of the main reasons I wanted to pick Saka at the start of the season, but didn't go with him, was this Leeds at home fixture in game week 2. I think he's taking some of the corners where Arsenal score every single corner pretty much nowadays. He's I think it's going to be a bit very like backwards and forwards game. So I think Leeds will definitely attack, and I think that allows Saka to get in behind. And I think with Gyökeres looking poor as a Saka owner, I think that's probably even better, because if returns are going to come, it's going to be through Saka, and he looked amazing in pre-season. So if I had Saka, I would definitely captain him.
Would you captain him over Haaland though? Because I have both. And I'm back and forth on it. Like, Tottenham's defense looked pretty decent in that first game week, and they're going to run 5 at the back. Like, they have the speed to kind of keep up with them, but Reinders did look really good, and they were great going down the wings. Like, they just were great attacking as a whole. But I'm just looking at Saka against Leeds. Like, how do they not score 3 at the Emirates? Gyökeres gets his first goal. Saka gets a goal and an assist. They have to do something after, especially how poor they looked against United.
Yeah, exactly. I can see a higher probability of Arsenal scoring 3 than, Tottenham doing a full shutout of City. I think that's more likely. So if it was for me, I'd probably go with Saka. But then again, Haaland scored 2 in the first game week. Looks fantastic. Yeah. Tottenham, if they concede an early goal, Tottenham are going to go for the attack. So it then opens the game up completely. So it's such a tough one. I'm going to go captaincy on Haaland this week because I don't own Saka. But if I own Saka, I think it's a perfect opportunity to be different. And, you're already top of the leaderboard, but you can kind of extend it a little bit more.
For sure. No, I like that. And that's where... So do you have any thoughts about Watkins? Because he's kind of the last one. He seems like he's kind of 3rd, 4th on your board right now. That first performance kind of scared you off a little bit.
It hasn't scared me off Watkins, because I think he scores 16 plus goals a season, and he has done consistently for the last 3 seasons. And in pre-season, he scored 5 in a row. The second he blanks, everyone's like, oh, let's get Watkins out. He's 9 million. But, they went up to 10 men. Newcastle was a tough game. Brentford away, who are just all over the shop at the minute. And I think Aston Villa's attack looks great. I think Rodgers will come good again. I think it's a question to be had of whether you captain Watkins. I think if I had Salah and Watkins, no Haaland or Saka, I'd probably be different and go for Watkins this week, because I can see him scoring. I'm not sure if he has penalties. We don't really know who's going to take Aston Villa penalties. When he takes them, he tends to miss them. But I think people seem to think that Watkins is back on penalties. So let's see. But I'm playing it safe with Haaland, I guess. And the next question, which I think a lot of people are kind of toying over on Twitter and elsewhere, and we've had a few questions about, is where do you go with the striker? That's the striker shotgun, so that's why that's there. And I think it's really interesting because everyone above kind of 9 million or like 7.5 million and below 6.5 million just didn't do anything. So for me, it feels like the price bracket, I think, is between 6.5 at Strand Larsen up to a Bowen at 8 million, who also West Ham looked dreadful. So for me, I'd be really interested in knowing who you think the best 7.5 asset is. And is the 7.5 worth more than an Evan-Nilsson at 7 million or 6.5 Strand Larsen?
Yeah, so this is tough for me because I still want to believe in Joao Pedro. Like, I still want to believe that Chelsea has that very high upside that a lot of people, I guess we did chase it in this team. I don't think either of us did in our individual teams though. What could be if everything goes right for Chelsea, right? You have Palmer, he gets like 2 or 3 assists to Pedro, and Pedro scores 2-3 goals, and all of a sudden they're out and running. With how bad that West Ham looked, I think I'd be willing to hold Pedro and not move him down to a Evan-Nilsson to a Strand Larsen. But if you're asking me who I believe in, man, in some ways, I kind of believe in Chris Wood. Like, I just feel like he's going to be consistent. I feel like while that first fixture against Brentford, it's not going to happen every week, like they were just feeding him chances and he had so many opportunities to score. But I think if you're playing it safe, maybe even just saving that 0.6 mil for Evan Nielsen is probably worth it. With how good his fixtures are, with how good Semenyo looked in that opener, like Semenyo's going to be one of the most transferred players in over this week. And again, with the Wolves fixture, probably will be again next week. Probably could see another price rise, maybe going all the way up once again. So I think Evan Nielsen could be the answer. If that's a player or a price range you're kind of looking at, 7.5, 7 million, I'd probably be looking his direction because they could score another 3 or 4 against Wolves this week. And it's the same reason why I wouldn't be going after Strand Larson because of how poor they looked against City. And they're not going to play City every week, but they struggled so mightily to get him the ball. His chances are so much more limited. Just roll with Evan Nielsen, pay up a little bit. And I think that's your answer there. Bowen, I'm just not really sold on at the price point. He's kind of better as a midfielder than as a forward. Mateta, I just think Palace is going to be inconsistent. And so that's why I'm not really there. If I had to rank them, I'd probably go Evan Nielsen, Wood, then Pedro, but I wouldn't sell Pedro for Wood or Evan Nielsen. I'd probably hold one more week just to kind of see what happens, but that's probably the order I'd rank them if I was trying to find someone in that 7.5 or less.
Detailed answer. I love that. Mateta, one last question before we move on. With Eze gone, is that a good thing in terms of he now is definitely nailed for penalties, or a bad thing in terms of Palace are going to be poorer and less creativity?
I think we're going to see, right? Because Eze's a big part of what they do offensively and what they do in their attack. So I have to imagine he's going to take a bit of a hit in just the balls that he's delivered and how many chances he has because you don't have Eze driving down that left wing and creating through the middle so often. But maybe they can weather that storm and maybe they play differently. Hopefully it's good for Munoz and they just play down that right side more and he can still see the same opportunities. But the way they're headed right now, I just don't know if he's going to be much better than we saw from them last season.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And I think Bowen for me is an interesting one because he's in my team and kind of already regretting it. I was thinking I should have transferred him to Wood before the price rise, but now Wood's price risen. I think, give him one more game, Chelsea at home, surely West Ham would be better. And then, maybe look to move him to a Strand Larson or Evan Nielsen. So that's kind of where my head's at. And I think a lot of people are kind of panicking a little bit and wildcarding. But I think what would be useful to talk through is who's on my watch list at each level. So defender, midfielder, striker. Also keen to get your opinions on. I think at the defender level, and the graphic on the right hand side for me shows how good, and sometimes why you've kind of got to ignore the grey fixtures that FPL gives you, because I think some of those fixtures are actually great for Bournemouth. They got Wolves at home, which is fantastic. Tottenham away is a little bit difficult, but I think Brighton at home and Newcastle at home are great fixtures for Bournemouth. Leeds away, newly promoted side. Fulham at home is a great fixture. I don't know why that's grey. And then I guess the 8 and 9 are a little bit more difficult. But the first, 5 or 6 there look absolutely fantastic. And I think because of the difficult Liverpool away fixture, it kind of put everyone off Bournemouth. People didn't go with Petrovic. People didn't go with Senesi. People didn't go with Semenyo or Evan Nielsen. And now all of a sudden people are thinking, why didn't we pick Bournemouth assets? And I think they're absolutely fantastic to look at. So in terms of defenders, the first one that I think is absolutely fantastic at 4.5 million, I'm sad I didn't think about him before, is Senesi, because he averages over 10 DEFCONs per game for Bournemouth. Mm-hmm. And I think losing Højsund and Kerkez, defensively, they're going to be doing more defending this season. So if anything, that DEFCON number is probably going to go up. And at 4.5 million, he's the only defender that averages over 10. The only other ones that do is Lacroix at 5 million, Murillo at 5.5, and Tarkowski at 5.5. So I think from a DEFCON perspective, you've got Senesi, who's great at 4.5, in Bournemouth fixtures, which looks fantastic. So I'd be looking at him. Lacroix got DEFCON as well, and he's at 5 million.
A monster.
Absolute fantastic. And I think it's a question between, do you want to go Lacroix at 5 million, who's just going to he got an 8-point game, absolutely fantastic. Munoz got 5 points, and it's he's 5 million, 0.5 million more. It's have we overlooked Lacroix as a fantastic asset? And similar with Tarkowski, who's in my team, he got 10 defensive contributions by the 60th minute or something. So averaging 4 points a game, and otherwise would have had a 10-point plus, game if it wasn't for that penalty. So I absolutely love Tarkowski. The last one to mention is Matty Cash, who I absolutely love him in previous FPL. He's one of the most transferred in players, and I think it's probably just a straight switch for people from Consa. But
Yeah.
he's always injured. Whenever I've had him, he's such a frustrating asset to own because he can get assists. Remember he scored a hat trick when I had him in my team. It's absolutely crazy. But I just don't see him with this schedule not getting another tight hamstring come off, and then you're kind of messing around with another transfers. For me, Senesi with better fixtures and defensive contributions now is where I'd be looking at 4.5.
Yeah, 4.5 is tough. I honestly still really like Van de Ven and the way that he played in that first fixture at 4.5. So the only question I have with Senesi is I understand the DEFCON side, but do you have any concerns about this defense just not being very good this year? Because Bournemouth lost 3 starting defenders, and obviously Senesi is going to be a big part of what they do this year. But the biggest fear for me with them is fixtures or not, we just don't know how well this defense is going to gel together, and can they really stop teams and have the chemistry to work together to not allow 2 to 3 goals a game? Because that's the bigger thing here, is that while I thought they played okay against Liverpool, they still gave up 4 goals, right? And towards the end, it really felt like they gave up, and that last Salah goal was just kind of like the nail in the coffin. They didn't really care. They knew the game was over. And I think that's my concern with this team is that they are a bunch of pieces that were now put together to start and to lead the line, and we're like, oh yeah, the fixtures are good, everything looks good, but they could still be a team that concedes 2 or 3 goals. And that's why from the beginning, when we talked about it, I wanted to pay up for defenders. Now, Munoz, again, when Lacroix is the one getting the DEFCON points, it's frustrating because you're waiting for him to get the attacking returns he can get. And that was always your point against Munoz and in favor of Lacroix. Tarkowski, you absolutely nailed. Now, I hope that Everton doesn't start like they did last season, where they started so poorly, so slow. That's great for Tarkowski and his DEFCON points, but they need to play a little bit better. But I think for now, if you do have the funds to go after him, he's definitely worth it. But I do want your rebuttal on Senesi, because I would be staying away from him because I just don't trust this Bournemouth side to actually defend and not give up, 2 or 3 goals a game.
I think, you've got to think that they're actually a well-coached side. We're a really good defense last season. Obviously, they lost Kirkers, Huijsen. They lost, is it Zabanyi to PSG as well?
To PSG.
So, I mean, it's a completely new look Bournemouth defense. But I think with the fixture run at 4.5 million, I don't think you're going to get, maybe Van de Ven is, but he doesn't get defensive contributions. I think for a defender at 4.5 million, that's going to get you 4 points a game at least, with a good fixture run and the odd clean sheet. I think it's fantastic value. I think it's just worth it, just because even 4 points a game over a 35 game season,
massive.
that's
You're
already
doubling.
like 150 point. You're at a point, and that like the highest scoring defender last season was, I think, Murillo or Milenkovic with like 160. Murillo got like 150. So at 4.5 million, already becoming at the level of, Rodgers got 160 points. Senesi's probably going to get around 120 at least points this season. That's crazy for a 4.5 million defender. So I think there's a lot of value to be had if you need to save money and go elsewhere. But then again, you're kind of right in that Palace are a much better defense. For 5.5 million more, you get a 4-point king in Lacroix, or you just go more to Munoz. So I like him if you're enabling someone else at 4.5. Otherwise, I would definitely have Tarkowski, Lacroix, Munoz, Murillo, Milenkovic, the likes of that above him. But yeah, I think that's a fair rebuttal. And we can move on to the midfield. This is interesting for me, and these aren't all players which I think are ones that I would be transferring in, but ones where I think have really interesting talking points. I think Semenyo is absolutely fantastic. Got 160. He outscored Rodgers on FPL last season, and not many people talk about that. I think he has the highest average shots per game, up with Salah. So like, if he could work on his finishing, which looks like he has been, given that he scored 2 goals, I think he's going to be an absolutely fantastic asset, and I think he could easily break 200 points this season. He's also great for defensive contributions from midfielder. He actually hit it quite a few times last season. So with their fixtures at 7 million, I love Semenyo. He's in my team. I think you shouldn't be looking anywhere else at that price point. I think him and Rodgers are very similar profiles and very similar in terms of point scoring abilities. But I also think Semenyo might even be on penalties. I think Evanilson might, but we've seen times where Semenyo's taken penalties for Bournemouth. So there's nothing to dislike about Semenyo for me. Rogers is very similar. The reason I put Gordon in, and it's an interesting one, I think as a short-term punt, I really like Gordon playing at striker. He's going to take penalties for Newcastle. And I think that game against Liverpool, Gordon hasn't scored in like 13 games, and you can just see it's the sort of game he's going to turn up and score. Like, he's got a point to prove. He was linked with Liverpool last season. I think for one game only, I really like Gordon. And then the other two, Kudus, I wouldn't be transferring him for the City game, but he looked really good, got 2 assists. I don't know, like, for me, Kudus isn't a player that I put in my team because of his output last season was like 3 goals, 5 assists or something in a West Ham team where he was one of their better players. But, you know, with questions, I would have said if Eze is going in, but Eze's been sniped by Arsenal. So I think Kudus is still a really good asset and one of the most transferred in. He doesn't really set the world on fire for me in that Spurs team where we don't know too much about what they're going to be like going forward with Richarlison, Solanke, how's it all going to work with Johnson and the like. So I think Kudus is a watch and see for me. And then Rangers was, you know, we kind of mentioned it. It's fantastic. At 5-5, there's not much to dislike there.
Yeah, no, Reinders has to be in your team. If you don't have him in, if you have Reuter and you want to make the move, you got to do it soon because he's going to keep rising. Like he just is. Yeah. I still like Rogers. The Gordon punt, I'll take your word for it, Tom. I'm sure he's going to turn up for the game. But if you're asking me, do I want him even at 7-5 and he's leading the line for Newcastle? They just weren't able to do enough creatively in the attack to where it seems worth it. Like you're just praying he gets a pen or he somehow is running free, which to be fair, he was running free on his way to a goal and Konza ripped him down. So there was opportunity. Now, did I believe he would finish that? He's no Isak, but I believe that he probably could have potentially. Yeah. But yeah, it's Semenyo, it's Reinders. I actually don't mind Kudus at 6-5 if it kind of works for what you're trying to do. Maybe you don't have as strong of a midfield and you just kind of want to fill it out with, you know, a couple of a Rogers, a Kudus, a Semenyo, a lot of 6.5 million players rather than having Bruno and Palmer and Salah and all the players that we strive to have. I don't hate it, but I don't think Richarlison's going to bicycle kick or basically push-cast his way into a goal every single week either. But I did think he looked good, honestly. He did look very good in that matchup, and it's just how do they look kind of going forward. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else that I would consider. In that range, probably not. It's really just Anderson, because he also got an assist to Chris Wood on a phenomenal ball right up the middle. A lot of people talking about him. It was Reinders or Anderson, and both of them ended up returning in that first week. So if you maybe can't afford Reinders because of the price rise, maybe you could just pivot to Anderson, and his fixtures don't seem that bad. I don't mind him against Palace. He was very close to DEFCON as well. I believe he was at 10 or 11. Of course, they had to make it 12, so Bruno didn't hit it. Anderson didn't hit it. But all those players are definitely good options right now to have on the watch list.
Yeah, definitely. I think Anderson actually got DEFCON more than he did in the back end of next season. So I think he's fantastic. He got a great assist to Chris Wood. He almost got another assist from the corner that took one too many deflections. And, you know, they said they were going to take the ambiguity out of assists this season. And straight away, people are like, it's TVC on the Twitter page. Like, what's going on? So good to see that they've not done anything about that. But I think Anderson's fantastic as well. I mean, we were debating all pre-season whether we go Rangers or Anderson, and the correct answer was both, which you've done in your team, which is the right call. So let's talk a little bit about strikers. There's a couple that aren't on here that I think I'd be keen to get your view on. Is Wissa, if he moves to Newcastle, is that someone you'd be looking at? And Solanke with Richarlison, you know, what do you think about Spurs' attack going forward? Who's going to be the main man? But just to quickly run through those, if you're looking to wildcard or you're looking to bring someone in, Evan Nielsen, we talked about, great fixtures, was great in Bournemouth side, probably on pens, was great last season. I think at 7 million, you're saving 0.5 from a Wood or a Mateta or João Pedro. So I think that's great at 7 mil. I think Watkins, you own him. He's going to score goals. He's consistent. He gets a goal a game. He gets a lot of assists. I think 16 goals, 11 assists last season. So I think hold him. He's going to be fantastic in the next few. Haaland, you know, we don't need to talk about him, was fantastic. Chris Wood didn't make many people's teams, and not many people spoke about him last, you know, as part of preseason, because Forest didn't score any goals. And the manager came out and said, we're not ready. And then instantly they start, and Chris Wood's banging them in again because it's what he does. So on pens in a good Forest side, who I imagine will finish top 6, I really like Chris Wood. Mateta, I also like Mateta because I think he's going to be on pens, leading the line for
Yeah.
Palace, going to play every game. Ekatike, you've got him in your team, and I'd be really keen to see, for the next run of fixtures, if they sign Isaac, what's your plan with Ekatike? Do you think they'll both play? Will Isaac play on the left, or are they kind of all going to rotate with Gakpo and the like? And last one, Strand Larson. So let me get your view on Ekatike, and then Ekatike, and then let's get your view on Richarlison as well.
So Ekatike was a bit of a differential pick, right? When I talked to you about it before game week 1, I was like, I want Saka, I want Ekatike, because I think they're both really good differentials based off what people are trying to do, and it kind of helped me build a little bit differently. But I think the part that people are, I'm not going to say missing, is that this whole Isak saga has kept him under wraps, right? He's only 21% owned right now, and he's an 8.5 mil forward. He's, a little bit more than Sesko, but he's much cheaper than Gyökeres, and I think we all know that Liverpool are going to score way more goals than Arsenal probably are this season. They're the best team in the league. He's 8.5 mil, and because Isak potentially could be on Liverpool very, very soon, people don't want to have him. But when I even look to our side right now, Tom, if there was a player I'd be most scared of, honestly, to score against Newcastle, it's Ekatike. Like, it 100% is. Yeah. He's the main guy on this team, and you saw it in preseason, 1.4 expected goals last game. He obviously got the goal and assist. I thought Gakpo looked pretty good in that contest as well. The player who didn't was Salah. Salah did nothing. He was absent pretty much that entire game, and Ekatike was running down the right side, the left side, and that's where, if they do bring in Isak, you'll have to monitor the situation to see how they're utilized. But I think the plan all along was to utilize them together, and Gakpo is probably the odd one out, and he'll probably be a super sub for them after that. But at 8.5, with the way he was involved in the Community Shield game against Palace, the way he was involved in that first game against Bournemouth, and he still came off a little bit early with only 71 minutes, I just think he's such a great value if you're planning on paying up for a Watkins, you're planning on paying up for all these players, because once you get through that Newcastle away and Arsenal at home, you're basically just running free. Then he's got Burnley away. Then he's got Everton, Palace, Chelsea, who I'm not that scared of, especially defensively. United, Brentford again, like Villa. It's just not going to be that bad for this team. And this guy could be scoring almost a goal every single game. Like, I just don't know why people don't want to have him in their teams. And obviously he rose up in price, but until he's 9 mil and he's right there with Watkins, or he's getting closer to where Gyökeres' price is, I just think he's a tremendous value and a differential. Even at 21%, people have him. I'm not going to captain him, but even just to think about that fixture against Burnley, if you had him, if you captained him instead of Salah, when everyone else probably triple captain Salah, all this stuff, you could make a lot of points and climb a lot of rank because of that. But the question to you, though, like, do you think that pivot is worth it until you get to those good fixtures? Because if you have Watkins right now, which we do, Ekatike is probably going to be, let's say he's 8.7 by that point. Let's say he scores 1 goal in the 2 fixtures between Newcastle and Arsenal, and he rises again to 8.7. At that point, people are going to bring him in because he's got the Burnley fixture coming up. But would you be willing to make the pivot earlier than that and hold him through the Newcastle and Arsenal fixtures?
Yeah, definitely. If I want him, and I think he's a great asset, like you say, on paper, best attack in the league, he's playing up front for them. It's pretty simple. And Liverpool, you're talking about bad fixtures, but they won the league last season. They're the best team in the league. So it's like there's no bad fixture for Liverpool. I think Newcastle away is they'll score a goal. There's no way Newcastle keep a clean sheet. And you think Ekatike is definitely going to be involved. Arsenal at home, you expect Liverpool to win. So they say tough fixtures, but getting ahead of a curve, and I think you're right, and you saw that differential angle, and I think it's a really good pick. I'd be on him early because I think the Isaac saga is going to drag on, and then is Isaac really fit to start straight away? And does Ekatike deserve to be even out of the team? And at that point, you're talking like game week 4, game week 5, game week 6. I think it's a great asset to bring in this week.
Yeah, and that's where for me, maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid a bit. I've been watching him very extensively. I've been like, man, I just think he's really good. Like, I just think while Salah's still the main man on this team and everything runs through him, whether it should or shouldn't, the interesting point here, though, Tom, is if Frimpong doesn't play, does that free up Salah down that right side much more than it did that first week? And the answer probably is yes, but the guy in the middle who's taking all the shots, who's scoring the goals, who's getting assists is Ekitike. And he's significantly cheaper, and it's so easy to get him and Haaland in a front line every single week without even having to pay up for the Gyökeres or Watkinses, who are even more expensive than he is.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually think Frimpong not playing at right back because of the hamstring injury will inhibit Salah, because with Frimpong going down the wing on the right, the wing back's got to track them, allow Salah to come in and do his trademark, finesse shot, left foot finish into the corner. So I think, even if they've got Connor Bradley or Joe Gomez, whoever it's going to be, I think Salah's going to be out on the touchline a little bit more and not able to come in and cut into the space. And Ekitike was the one that they were looking to for the spark, get the ball, turn, run at players, 1-2s with Wirtz, getting in behind, scoring the goal, obviously, getting assist to Gakpo. He's the player that, I think if Salah had blanked there, you'd see Salah already at a price drop, because it was just that one moment at the end. The game was already kind of, dead because Chiesa had scored, and it was just like a lapse of judgment from Bournemouth. Outside of that, we said it at the start of pre-season, we went with Haaland because he's at the focal point of one of the best attacks in the league. Salah now with Wirtz, Ekitike, Gakpo, maybe Isaac coming in, I just don't think it's that good of an asset. And if he didn't have penalties, I don't think as many people would own him. And I think at that point it's kind of, a very interesting debate to be had.
Well, and even just comparing it to last season, he was 12 million, 12.5, I think, at the start of the year. Now he's 14.5 million, and everyone said, "Oh, you can't own Haaland at 15 million. He's too expensive. He's not worth it." And he was still bagging goals to start the year, but it did come to a point where he was just too expensive. And I think people are going to run into the same issues when you're talking about Salah as well. And Haaland's the same problem, but you can't have both. You kind of have to pick one or the other, or just really suffer elsewhere. And I think that today the answer is absolutely Erling Haaland.
Yeah, no, exactly. Completely agree. I guess last thing to touch on then is our team, and also your sneaky transfer that you wanted to ask me about in your own team.
Oh. So let's get into our team. Do you want to make any transfers? This is our full lineup right now. We're going to probably roll with Watkins. I said I want to roll with Pedro. Do you want to go Palmer to Saka? Which I don't think we should do, because we'll have to transfer Saka out probably the week after that. It's really just Ruter to Reinders, I think, is really the only move we could make. But I think that inhibits us from making a move next week, should we want to do a double switch and move things around. But do you see any concerns here? I think we're going to start Dubravka. Pretty happy with that. Honestly, we're going to probably end up running the same team back that we had last week, which is this team here. But any concerns with the team, any transfers you're seeing, or anything you want to make change-wise?
No, I don't think so. I was quite impressed with Rutter. I think he'll do well. Got an assist. I quite like him, and just being a little bit different, not going down the Rangers route. It would have been a good transfer, but with Rangers already being 5.6, I think it's an awkward amount of money to have in the bank. 0.4 doesn't really help us. So I think the only thing, like, if you run through the front line, I think Pedro against West Ham's a great fixture. Haaland expected to score. I think your little graphic at the bottom said he's the highest game week 2 likely scorer at 60%.
Yeah.
Watkins, fantastic, and Rodgers, great fixtures against Brentford. I think Rutter, I think Brighton against Everton's a good fixture. Palmer's good. Bruno looks good against Fulham. So I think the front line looks absolutely fantastic. Munoz and Murillo, I think both will do well, even if they concede. I expect Murillo to get DEFCON this week, being away from home, and I expect Munoz to have a great game and maybe get an attacking return. The only question for me is whether we do Porro and play double Burnley defense, which we spoke about earlier.
Come on, Tom. You know we're doing it, man. We're running the risk. We got to run the risk. We got to run a risk. We had a okay first week, but I think we got to run the risk with a double Burnley. I think we have to. I think it just makes sense. And if it hits and we get that clean sheet,
it's going to feel so good.
Big 8 points for us.
8 million.
Well, especially because, I think also because we're planning on captaining Haaland probably again, right? Like I think you're with that. I want to do that, especially for this team. So like, while I understand Porro could still return, and maybe we'll obviously move him up the bench over Rodon, I still think if we're gonna go for maximum upside, the maximum upside is to captain Haaland and then to have 2 Burnley for the defense and the goalkeeper.
I like it. I'm happy with that. Let's do it.
Okay, I'm with it. I think this makes a lot of sense. I think it's going to end up pretty good for us. Munoz, I kind of wish it was Richards right now or Lacroix. I want those DEFCON points. I want the DEFCON. I want the points, Tom. I want the points.
My one question for you is, would you pivot now from a Porro who has City away to a Lacroix or a Richards
Ooh,
to
you
get
want
the
to pivot
DEFCON
now?
points? Well, that's in my own team. I'm thinking, do I want to get Lacroix in and just have 4 points a game when, I think outside of that Bournemouth, I don't expect Spurs to get a clean sheet against City. I don't expect them to get a clean sheet against West Ham or Brighton. And I think Semenyo and Evan Nilsson look good, so I don't even think a Bournemouth at home. So I think for the next 4, I don't really see a Spurs clean sheet. Is it better to pivot now ahead of everyone else transferring him out?
So I tend to agree with you. The only concern for me is what about the attacking returns?
Yeah.
Because while, yes, I do agree with you defensively, the whole reason why you're paying 5.5 for him is because he's on set pieces, because he's on corners, because he's going to run down that wing. And against West Ham, against Wolves, against Leeds, even against Brighton, because I don't think Brighton looks overly good. It's just with Bournemouth, they could probably bum them and score 3 or 4, and Semenyo have an absolute stormer against them. But outside of that, I just think you probably want to hold him at least for now. Yeah. But I it's an interesting thought. It's just, to me, it's a little bit of an overreaction to and let's be fair to Porro. He still got 6 points week 1. Like, they still got the clean sheet. He didn't get any attacking returns, but it was more than fine. No concerns. It's just the City fixture, probably one you rotate.
Overthinking. I'm at that point of overthinking. You talked me down from the ledge, so that's good.
So I think this is the team we'll go with. We'll Captain Holland. I love that. I think it's just relax. We did have a bit rotation in the defense, sticking with the keeper. We're good to go. But yeah, Tom, I do have a proposal for you.
Interesting.
Because I have Bruno Fernandes in my team.
Yeah.
And I saw the way United played. And I was like, you know what? This week, my team's good. Midfield's good. Striker's good. Defense is good. I'm going to rotate Van de Ven for Esteve. Feeling good. But next week, if Saka doesn't have a big game, I think the move is to change him for Bryan Mbeumo. And then, because if you make that move to go, I don't know what he is right now. If he's 10 mil, or I think Mbeumo is 8 mil, isn't he? Or is 8.5?
He's 8, yeah.
So if I go from 10 to 8, then I can go from Anderson to Semenyo in my midfield. So that double switch from Saka to Mbeumo, and then from Anderson all the way up to Semenyo, which it's kind of weird because of the price rises, but then I think the team is like set to go for a while.
Yeah.
Right? So you're keeping the Leeds fixture, right?
Mbeumo and Semenyo, both Prem proven, fantastic. I think Anderson's going to get you the odd 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, occasionally like a 5-6 pointer like this week. Plus Saka, I think after this week the fixtures aren't great. I much prefer Mbeumo and Semenyo on paper. I absolutely love that transfer. I would definitely go with that. And I'm even thinking about pivoting from Bruno to Mbeumo already. I know Bruno's, we talk about DEFCON, but like, he didn't get it this week. If he's not going to get it against Arsenal, he's going to get it like 30% of the time. I don't think you should own him for that. He's on penalties, which I think is and set pieces, which really favours him. He's creating chances, but who's he creating those chances to? It's going to be Mbeumo and Cunha. And I think Mbeumo had the most crosses in the league last season. If Sesko's playing and Cunha's getting down there, I'm semi-tempted to save a mill and just go from Bruno to Mbeumo before everyone transfers in Mbeumo. Scored 20 goals last season, so
And so that's where I've been looking at that and thinking about it, and here I'll pull up the fixtures for you so you can see, like, this is Bruno, but I mean, you have Fulham away, Burnley at home. The City fixture is going to be tough, but that's fine. Chelsea, I'm not overly concerned about. Brentford, I'm not concerned about. Sunderland after that, like the Liverpool fixture, sure, it's going to be tough. Yeah. But even after that, Brighton, Forest, Tottenham, like it's not going to be so bad that they're facing Arsenal every week. And we keep saying that. But if they look anything like they looked this past week, I just think there's a world where they could be great.
Those fixtures are fantastic, and I know a lot of people are free hitting in game week 4. So you can have triple, I think with Bruno and Mbeumo, you're laughing with Fulham away, Burnley at home, fantastic. You free hit. Chelsea at home, I think Man United will win.
Yeah.
Brentford away is a fantastic fixture, and then Sunderland at home, and then after that you can wildcard an 8, and get them all out. Yeah, wow, you've really piqued my interest on the United front now.
Right. And so that's where, like, I'm just looking at it. I'm like, man, if I start moving guys around and making it happen, it's very interesting. Very, very interesting. So I wanted to pose that to you because I thought it was a fun switch. I want to have Saka in the team for the long term, but really, like you said, it was for this Leeds fixture. And with how bad they are going forward, I'm fine to kind of transfer them out. But do you have any final thoughts for game week 2? I know both of us are very excited for that Monday night fixture at St. James's Park, baby. It's going to be rocking, and they're going to get the win. Newcastle's going to win the game. They're going to win the game. Ekitike was going to score, but Newcastle's going to win 2-1. I can feel it.
Ekitike's going to score 3, but Tonali's going to get 4.
Yeah, there you go. Gordon Penn, right? Gordon Penn.
Exactly. No other thoughts for game week 2. I'm excited. We both started really well this season. I think keep a level head, roll transfers where you can, and let's see what this game week brings us.
Let's get it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for all our future content, and we'll see you guys next week. We're out. Peace.
Peace.